Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn McCarthy, and today is going to be such an amazing day. It's Christmas Day. For those of all of you who celebrate, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everyone, everywhere. And here at the Business of Happiness, we serve you. Women in dentistry. We live to serve you and support you in finding happiness and fulfillment in the work that you do and in your lives, because it's so much bigger than the work that you do, right? When we talk about work-life balance, what we're really talking about is finding joy and success and fulfillment in all aspects of our lives. And that is what you deserve. That is exactly what you deserve. And today, I thought what I'd love to do as the CEO of the Business of Happiness is gift you the 12 gifts of happiness for women in dentistry this Christmas. So you're so welcome. This is my gift to you on Christmas Day. I thought I'd bring to you these 12 perspectives of how to find happiness in dentistry. So you're probably going to want a pen by your side, and definitely you can save this episode and listen to it again, or share it with a girlfriend who you know is challenged or struggling in dentistry or challenged in life. I mean, these really do bleed over into the rest of your life, into your personal relationships, because there's no separating one from the other. Sometimes it feels that way. I know. Sometimes it feels like you are two very different people or 10 very different people. But when we start to bring all those personalities back home, that's when we feel more whole. Okay, enough said. I'm going to start with my beautiful 12 gifts for you this Christmas. So I'm going to start at number 12, and we're going to all go all the way down to 1. Number 12, it's not about you. This perspective is so big. I almost want to tattoo it on the inner arm of every woman in dentistry. It's not about you. That patient who is having a hissy fit in the waiting room because of financial stress, it's not about you. That patient who is yelling at you, that teenage patient who's yelling at you and using blasphemy and disrespect, it's not about you. Your team leader, assistant who's been with you for 20 years, who just gave her 2 weeks notice, even though you've gone out of your way for her for 20 years, it's not about you. Every single person is just doing their best, and not one of us were taught how to navigate stress and to discover our power for emotional resilience. None of us were. We weren't taught in dental school. We sure were not taught in college or in high school, and neither were any of your patients or your team members. And so often we think, oh my gosh, it's because I'm not enough. I'm not a good enough leader. I'm not a good enough dentist, or I made a mistake in communication. And although those are always great places we can go to improve and to clarify and to pivot and to make our businesses more efficient and more effective and our communication more effective, that moment in time is not about you. It is zero indication of your worth and zero indication of your potential. It is not about you. So on those days where you're feeling beaten down, and believe me, there are days like that. One of my mentors used to say to me, sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield. And sometimes you feel like you're the windshield getting all the bugs slapped on you and you're walking away and you're just full of dead bugs. And there are days that feel like that, where it feels like everyone's out to get you. And again, I want to say to you, it's not about you. Everyone is a walking trauma and stress response. We're all just doing our best. And nobody, unless they've gone through therapy or radical happiness program for women dentists, very, very few people are equipped to navigate their own stresses and emotions. And yeah, sometimes you're the punching bag. It doesn't mean you have to accept it. It doesn't mean you have to allow it. But I'm giving you permission now to let it not be about you. Number 11, you don't have to be like anyone else. In fact, the more you allow yourself not to be like everyone else, the better you'll do financially, emotionally, in terms of happiness and success. Do not have to be like everyone else. Not like every other dentist, not like every other orthodontist, not like every other boss. In fact, you can break all the rules. And I love remembering this. I quote her so often. If you haven't read the book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, it's one of my favorites. It's written by Bronnie Ware, and she was a palliative care nurse in Australia who took care of people at the end of their lives. And she discovered after decades of her work that there were these 5 top regrets of people near the end of their lives. And the number one regret, and that's the one I'm talking about in this gift, number 11, you don't have to be like anyone else. The number one regret of the dying, Bronnie Ware found, was, I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not the life everyone else expected of me. Boom, right there. You don't have to be like anyone else. And you don't have to be the person everyone else expects of you. In fact, you standing up for your own individuality is your superpower. And I mean that in all components. I mean that in parenting. I mean that in leading. I mean that in the treatment that you do. I mean that in the business that you grow. I mean that in the clothes that you wear. Nothing will make you feel more constricted and trapped than trying to assimilate to somebody else. Number 10, you are not alone. You know, I think I've talked a lot about this on recent episodes, about this epidemic of loneliness in dentistry. And there's so many reasons for it. It makes so much sense that you would feel that way. But if there's any kind of mantra that you could bring to yourself in those moments where you feel really isolated and really alone and like no one else understands, I want to remind you from my decades of treating patients in pain and in fear, from my years and years of coaching dentists in pain and in fear, no one is ever alone. No one ever feels something that surprises me. I never, even to this day, after graduating so many women from my programs, to this day, I still have never met a woman who said to me something that I thought, whoa, no one has ever thought that, or no one has ever felt that way, or no one's ever been in your situation. That's really unique. Yes, our stories are unique, but you are not alone. And when we allow ourselves that knowledge, then we get to reach out and say, okay, who can I ask for help? Who's been through this before? Who knows what I'm talking about? You are never alone, even though your mind wants to tell you that. Number 9, gift number 9, it's okay to feel your feelings. And I know we've all seen those memes, it's okay to not be okay. Yes, that's true. But I'm actually expanding that to it's okay to feel any of your feelings. And in fact, it's imperative. If you want to live a life of happiness and abundance and success and freedom and all the things and purpose and truth and all the wonderful things, it actually requires you to feel your feelings, all of them. It means that when you're sad, it requires you to feel all the way through that feeling. You get to be sad. And for those of you who have had some loss in this past year, who've lost people close to you, my heart is with you, and allow yourself to grieve. There is no statute of limitations on grief. If you've lost what you thought was a marriage, my heart is with you. Give yourself permission to grieve. It is going through the grieving process how we heal. It is not avoiding it or trying to distract ourselves with work. Giving yourself permission to feel your feelings. And that means anger too. You're allowed to be angry. It's actually a really, really important part of human psychology is anger. It's a really important part of protection. It's an important part of growth. It's an important part of new understanding. It's an important part of standing up for yourself. It's an important part of change. Anger is a really important emotion. And when we go all day trying to prevent ourselves from feeling it, it bubbles up, and then it comes out at the worst time. But I want to also say beyond those uncomfortable feelings, it's important to feel them all. So give yourself permission to feel joy and play. Give yourself permission to celebrate yourself and feel pride. We think that's such a terrible feeling. It's actually really important for helping you and give your mind the evidence that you're capable of doing great things. Number 8, you are never expected to do it alone. We know this in dentistry. None of us practices dentistry alone. It's called four-handed dentistry for a reason. We only have 2 hands. In ortho, we know this. We need a team always. You never have to do it alone. So if you find yourself saying to yourself, I've got to do this all by myself, or no one's going to do it the way it needs to be done, so I'm going to do it all by myself, or I'm the only one that can do this, I want you to hear these words. You never have to do it alone. And that story that you've been telling yourself might be a protective mechanism, might be a coping mechanism for some kind of wounding or pain that you experienced in the past. But know the truth. You never have to do it alone. Actually, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got when I opened up my ortho practice, my Scratch Start practice, after I'd had a terrible failure of a practice and I was starting a brand new practice, and I thought, I'm going to do this differently. And I was the mom of 3 younger kids. My husband is an oral surgeon. He was not available to be the go-to parent. And I never forget these words of advice. Get a backup for a backup. And what she meant was other humans. Find a backup of support, and then for that person, find another backup. And nothing was more critical during the first few years of COVID, because where I took that advice was in terms of nannies. So I had a nanny and I had a backup nanny. And thank you for that advice. It saved me during the times that I was just growing my fledgling practice. The same is true in our practices with our team. Always have a backup for a backup. Let it be okay that your team is slightly larger than you think you need. Because the day that 3 of them are out sick or someone goes on maternity leave, you want to give the grace as a leader to allow for that human side, because that's what you know you deserve. And when we don't have enough team members, we always feel the scarcity and the fear and the resentment. So you never have to do it alone. Always have a backup for a backup. Now, number 7, it goes very much along with my number 8 of never being expected to do it alone. Number 7 is, it's a strength to ask for help, not a weakness. We got it wrong this whole time. We thought, you've been telling yourself, that it was a weakness to ask for help. It's not. It's actually a strength. It's actually how the CEOs of enormously successful, huge businesses get it done. You know, when you see that woman and you say to her, how do you do it all? Here you are, you're a coach, you're an orthodontist, you have a podcast, you are writing a book, you're coaching other clients, you're running marathons. How do you do it all? What is their answer always? I have help. Every single time. It turns out it's actually a strength, and it's a strength that you can start building. So if you're not used to asking for help, let that be one of your 2025 New Year's resolutions, right? I'm going to ask for more help. It's a strength, not a weakness. Number 6, and this goes along on the heels of that, your past is zero indication of your potential. Your past is zero indication of your potential. Let's say in the past you were terrible at managing money and you overdrew several accounts and you had huge credit card debt. It is zero indication of your ability to be in great financial control and abundance. Zero indication. Let's say in the past you were not good at doing extractions. Guess what? It's zero indication of you being able to do them in the future. Nothing is without potential. And sometimes we look at our past and we think, well, I'm shy. There's no way I could speak on stages. Look at my history. I couldn't do it in the past. Your past is zero indication of your potential. So if there's a dream that you are dreaming of and you think, well, I'm not good at that. I have a friend who once told me her dream was to do stand-up comedy. And she thought, but I get such stage fright. Yeah, it's just a great place to start. Learning how to feel comfortable on stage. It is not an indicator that you can't do it. Your past is zero indication of your potential. Number 5. My 5th gift to you. One of your greatest strengths as a dentist, as a leader, as a mom, as a human being is to learn to breathe. It's that simple. It's that simple. It's so interesting to me that in dentistry, we put so much emphasis on breathing and opening airways, and sleep dentistry, which is all about breathing. And we recognize how important it is for the cardiovascular health and, weight management and clarity of your brain and your hormones and everything. But we forget to breathe ourselves. We forget to literally take a breath. And the reason why taking a breath is so important is because it is an incredible nervous system regulator. What does that mean? It takes you from stress state to parasympathetic calm, because your vagus nerve, which innervates the base of your lungs, is the queen of the parasympathetic nervous system. So maybe you've heard my beautiful talks about this before. It is such a critical, important realization for women in dentistry. It is a superpower to remember to breathe. And I mean breathing a deep breath in through the base of your lungs, like, allowing for that diaphragmatic breath, extending your belly, and slowly exhaling. And the secret here is focusing on the exhale, extending the exhale longer than the inhale. And that is how you turn on parasympathetic calm. This has saved my marriage. This has saved me from being sued. When I'm in a confrontational moment with anybody, I first take a few deep breaths, because it always calms me down. And when you say something, you're like, damn, I shouldn't have said that. And the next morning, you're lying in bed and you're like, oh, I should have said it this way. When you give yourself permission to calm your nervous system by breathing, guess what? That clarity will come to you. So such a superpower. This is possibly the biggest gift on this whole list, is to remind you to breathe. Number 4, you deserve a lunch break. I don't care what's happening in your practice. I don't care if you're renovating at the same time as you're treating patients, you're not closing down. I don't care if you're in the middle of a lawsuit. I don't care if your morning went to hell. You always deserve a break in the middle of the day. And it is so important for you, not just in terms of how you show up for your patients in the afternoon, which, such a big part of this. If you think that you have to show up for your patients and that's why you got to work through lunch, I got news for you. You have to show up for your patients. That's why you have to not work for lunch, during lunch, because you cannot be your greatest self without a break, without hydrating, without eating, without resting, and just not doing, going all the time. You deserve a lunch break. It will absolutely, if you do nothing differently in 2025 and you just commit to taking a lunch break every day, your whole life will change. That I promise. Number 3, never rush out the door in the morning. Oh, this one's hard. Can you get up a little bit earlier? Yeah, it requires you going to bed a little bit earlier, so that you can give yourself a little spaciousness in the morning. The way you start your day sets up your entire experience for the rest of the day. It really does. I have done so much research on this. I have so many case studies and surveys that I've sent out to support this. And there is actually so much in the literature. The way you start your day impacts the way you experience your whole day. And one little shift you can make is by not cutting it so close. I know it's hard when you have little ones. I know, because I've been there. And it feels like you wake up at 5:30 with the first cry and then you're running from there. I get it. And this is where we get to ask for help, for sure. But remembering, if you can start your day from a little place of calm and not this frantic, furious, fly out of bed, jump in the shower, get your coffee made, fly to the office, be 2 minutes late. If you can find a way to just start with calm and just a few minutes of rest, rest in wake state, sitting with your coffee or your tea, sitting by the fire, taking a few deep breaths in. I don't mean on the phone, for sure, but just being present with yourself, maybe watching the sunrise or going for a walk outside with your dog. The best way to set yourself up for success. Number 2, this is a great gift. Permission, for sure. You get to change your mind. Always. You have permission to change your mind. You get to change your mind about everything. It is never too late. You get to change your mind about dentistry if you want to. You get to change your mind about how you run your practice. You get to change your mind about how you employ your employees. You get to change your mind about your marketing. You get to change your mind about what you wear. You get to change your mind about what you think. In fact, learning how to change your mind is how we grow. That's it. Whenever you get stuck in a certain mindset, that is when you add limitations. Learning how to change your mind is a superpower, and it's what I teach best. It is what I support the women in dentistry that I coach how to do on an expert level. And by the way, it requires taking care of your body too, because your mind is not separate from your body, but that's a conversation for another time. You can change your mind, always. The number 1 gift that I have for you this Christmas, as a high-achieving, incredibly supportive and loving woman in dentistry who is doing everything for everyone else, who is literally putting smiles on children's faces on a daily basis, who is taking care of her family and is the go-to problem solver. You are enough. You don't have to do any more. You don't have to be any more. You don't have to lose 10 more pounds. You are enough exactly the way you are. Can you receive that gift? Can you close your eyes for a moment and hear me say, you are enough exactly the way you are? And can you allow yourself to just bring a smile to the corners of your face and feel that and let that settle in and just give yourself permission to hold the possibility that you are enough? Because, my friend, that is the truth. You are enough. You don't have to change for anyone. You're enough exactly as you are. And thank you. Thank you for all the great things you've done this world, this year. Thank you for leading your team. Thank you for doing difficult things. Thank you for dedicating your life to serving others, to supporting and healing others. Thank you for just being you, for being the unique person that you are, for being such a wonderful human. There's no one else like you, and you are enough. Merry Christmas. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.